Hey, this is Loral, and welcome back. I hope you've been enjoying our 4-part series with Glenn Morshower and Ken Walls. We're going to talk about just being in love with your life, designing that divine purpose and mission for you, and how do you overcome all these obstacles that are going to just be part of it. So a lot of you get stopped by obstacles and you stop versus like, that's interesting, and you keep moving on. We call it so what, now what? To get you through some of this today, we're going to talk about how do you take massive action? How do you embrace your value? And the biggest value that you have is your divine gift. And inside of that, there's a massive action principle that we actually shared on other podcasts about you being in the high value actions and what I call your revenue producing days. Last, we're going to talk about living in the now, right? Being very, very intentional about being present in the now and you creating amazing success for 2025. Let's listen in to this last of our 4-part series.
This is probably the most valuable story that you've ever had somebody tell on your show. Glenn knows both of my daughters, and Abigail, Glenn will tell you, is perhaps the most confident little 14-year-old. She's unbelievable, and she's won national championship and dance competitions twice. And anyway, so one day I come out of my office at our old house, and the bottom of our staircase was right outside my double office doors. And I come out, and my daughter had already told me goodnight and gave me a hug, and I come out, and I hear my wife upstairs in her bedroom, tucking her in and saying her prayers with her. And they do this prayer. It's now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. May angels guide me through the night and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know the whole thing, but at the end of the prayer, and I just stop and I'm listening. And she's probably at that point, maybe 9 years old when this happened, when I heard this. And then at the end, and I hear, I am happy, I am confident, I am strong, I can do anything, my body serves me well, all these affirmations. And it was beautiful. And I hear all of this and I'm like, I teach that stuff. That's unbelievable. My wife's finally catching on. So I go on and my wife comes down later and I said, hey, I heard you doing the affirmation and the prayers with Abigail. How long have you been doing that? And I'm expecting her to go, well, I heard you on one of your live streams teaching that. And so I just started it recently. She said, since the day I brought her home from the hospital. And I said, what? She said, every day, every night, and every morning, we do that prayer. Every day, twice a day, since the day she was born, brought home. And I was like, well, that explains a lot about my daughter's confidence, because between the ages of 0 and 7 is where we develop our lifelong attitude, our program, so to speak. And, my 14-year-old daughter, confidently will look at you if you said, do you know what you're going to do when you grow up? She's going to, yes, I'm going to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. I'm going to law school. I'm going to be a very, very wealthy attorney. I'm going to own a house on the beach in Florida. I mean, she has it mapped out and she'll say it confidently. So I didn't have that. And I think that as a parent, if you're not giving that, just that you don't have to worry about the college. Don't worry about all of that, because I think it'll all take care of itself. And I'm not saying don't plan for college. I'm saying don't worry about whether they're going to go to college. Worry about instilling that confidence from 0 to 7. When they have that confidence, there's nothing for them to overcome. It's there already.
So I love that, Ken. It's a great story. Hey, Laurel, before we close, can I throw one little thing out there that I've been talking about recently, and you've not heard me talk about it because I haven't done one of your events since I started talking about it. The subject of value creation. We hear this word in wellness circles. We hear creating value, providing value. This is not new. You've heard it ad nauseum, so has Ken. So being a value provider, it occurred to me that the difference between celebration and depression, whether you're celebrating your life or you're depressed, is based on whether or not you're participating actively in your own worth, your own value, being fully utilized. So I'm going to ask that everybody write down those 2 words side by side, fully utilized, stepping into the fullness of your intended purpose. And I'm going to give you an analogy to explain this, which is so friggin' gorgeous. So professional baseballs are made in Costa Rica. Take my word for it. You can look it up if you don't believe. They're not designed here. They're made in Costa Rica. So this is a made-up story to illustrate a point about two baseballs that were on an assembly line being made for professional baseball use. But as they shipped them to the United States and brought them out of packages, one of them in 1998, I believe it was 98, when Mark McGwire broke the record that Roger Maris had set in 1961 of 61 home runs hit in a season. And that year, he not only broke the record, he shattered the record. So on the day that he hit his 70th 7-0, he beat it by 9 runs, something that had stood for 40 years, and he beat it by 9 runs. On that day when he hit that 70th home run, this is so picturesque. I love this. And I love how simplistic it is that as the baseball was traveling to Mark's bat, he played for the St. Louis Cardinals. As that baseball was traveling to his bat, that ball was worth approximately $10. And a few seconds later, when it went over the wall, that ball was worth $3 million. Same ball. Now watch this. Adjacent to that ball on the assembly line was another ball that's intended use was to be played baseball with. However, it wound up in Cynthiana, Kentucky, back behind someone's washer, right, in the utility room. And it fell down there, and it's got cobwebs all over it, and it is not being used in anybody's baseball game. It's just sitting behind a washing machine. And it occurs to me that this is what happens with human lives. You either claim the purpose for which you were made, and you step into the fullness, and there and only there will you find your value. Put yourself into play according to your purpose for which you were designed. And you watch and see. I'm going to tell you that is an instantaneous cure for depression. It will go away. It's called the law of proper usage. You are being intentionally utilized according to your design. And I have gotten more feedback on that simple story about two baseballs than any other lesson I've ever taught in any of my workshops. And I want to make sure that gets said in here, because once you decide to go ahead and pitch yourself towards home plate like you were intended, I'm speaking obviously in metaphor, but when you agree to be the baseball that you were designed to be, then watch how quickly all of these other things, including money, will fall beautifully into alignment because you're in your purpose. And as long as you're stepped outside of your purpose, those things will always be an extreme hardship because you're out of sync with your design. Get in sync, watch the magic happen.
What a beautiful summary. I love that. And so, like, wrapping up some of the points for those that are listening, knowing your divine mission, listening and taking action on your mandates. And I think the mandates are one of the most powerful things. That's, for me, that's one. If I think of all the things we've talked about, knowing when a mandate comes and moving on it, it's just, thank God, I've just done it. And so you're going to find your way through this. And as we wrap this up, what are the parting words you would say? We've given so many nuggets. I mean, this, if anything, I would say repeat listening to this. There's probably 1,000 nuggets in there. Which one applies to you? Which one can you take action on? Because it's a lot to unpack. What would your parting words be, gentlemen, to our audience?
In 2016, I started writing my first book. I'm a high school dropout. I didn't finish 12th grade. I almost did, but they informed me that in 10th grade, I didn't get a biology credit. And I was like, yeah, that class sucked. I didn't go. And they're like, well, you needed that credit, you moron. And so I said, well, and they wanted me to come back for a whole year to get one credit. And I said, that just doesn't work for me. So I walked out. Now, I have had a lot of college graduates work for me over the years. I had an English teacher tell me I'd never amount to anything. I have a chapter in Mark Victor Hansen's biography about me. Bob Proctor also has one. There's one about me, and there's not a lot of other people have full dedicated chapters. You know, I've written 8 books, and that teacher that told me that has written 0. So back in 2016, I was having doubt about my book, whether I should write it, continue writing it. And as I mentioned, Grant Cardone is a friend of mine and a mentor of mine. And here's what probably the most motivating thing anybody has ever said to me. I was talking to him and I said, I just don't know. Me write a book. I do websites, and why should I write a book? So I wrote my book, and it became a bestseller, a #1 bestseller. You know, I think it just takes action. Wayne Dyer wrote in his books about the 100th monkey syndrome, how everything's out here in the ethos, and every one of us have the ability to grab a hold of it and tap into it and go. We've all walked through a store and saw something on an end cap and went, that was my idea, right? Like, wait a minute. And it's because it's all out here. We all have the ability to go within and find that power that God gave us. But the difference between successful people and people that look at and judge successful people is the level of action. If you're not taking massive action, like if you're not going, you know what? I need to read Laurel's book and I need to read it now so my kids have a freaking chance. Go buy the damn book, and don't just get the book and think you have some shelf help. Get the book, open it and read it and focus and schedule your time to do it. But take massive action in your life.
So I hope you enjoyed our 4-part. Again, I would go back and watch it all together in one string. So count on over an hour, hour and a half to watch it all and put it together. Take some notes. Again, I'm going to offer you the journal in our show notes. You're going to want to start taking notes and start building a plan of the things you want to atrophy, give up in your life, and the things you want to strengthen and lean into and have in your life. So I want you to subscribe to my channel, be here 5 days a week, click that notification button, and share it with at least 10 friends. Especially this 4-part series is so motivating and so compounding for many of you, and adding a whole group of people. Maybe have a fun watch party at your house, have 10, 15 people over, and start a conversation about money in the right way. If you have any questions, go to askloral.com, ASKLORAL, ask a question, make a request, fill out a gap analysis so we can see who you are, what you do, and how we can help you move your life forward. We'll see you tomorrow.